This is Conscious Coffee, where you always have a seat at the table. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Conscious Coffee. I'm really grateful you all are here, and I wanted to start this off by just letting everybody know that I will be going to releasing new episodes bi-weekly instead of weekly. Just as, you know, I've got a lot of stuff happening in life right now, like, picking up more hours at work and trying to find a good balance between everything I've got going on at home and, working. And then Sharon, obviously, she's the master of technology here with this podcast. And, so anyhow, we're just going to take the pressure off of both of us and go down to bi-weekly and go from there. So thanks for bearing with me on missing last week. Life's been kind of lifing. I mean, not in like a huge crazy way, but definitely in a soul growth way. And I wanted to record this episode because I am again faced with a very difficult decision that I never really considered that I would have to face. I've mentioned her before, but my cat, Mouse, she is like my child. I mean, she is my child, not like she is, that's my baby. And she's had a lot of health issues since we'll just call it rescued her from this man once I first moved to New York. And it's been a road. It's definitely been a road with her. She's got lung problems. Her kidneys are a third of the size of normal cats' kidneys, and now arthritis, and she was having issues going to the bathroom because of the kidney food. Anyway, it's just been a whole thing. It's been a road. It's been a journey with her. And so I've been faced with the decision of having to put her down. And, out of all the lessons I've learned in life and out of all the things that I have experienced and all the loss and the grief, I realized that something I've never had to do was make a decision to take away something's life for its highest good, and I guess kind of too in the highest good of myself, because I am the other party in this. And I just kind of had a laugh too when I was thinking about it, because I was doing a life review, and I was like, I just kind of laughed because I was like, oh, universe, out of everything else I've learned, why would I not be tested with something as deep and such a grave decision to make, and something that, to be quite honest, I don't know how I'm going to live with myself, after making a decision like that. And it got me thinking that even when we put in the work and, life does even out and it gets better, we also are still going to be faced with lessons and trials and tribulations. They're just going to look different. And it's about how you handle them. And are we going to implement the growth that we've had over the years and in our lifetime? And I can tell you a decision like this years ago would have definitely sent me back into a spiral. It would have sent me, I'd probably be out at the bar, like drinking, and who knows what else I'd be doing, trying to escape and fill a void that, well, it can't be filled, in losing her. I mean, because I know nothing will ever replace her, but nonetheless, it is definitely, it's a heavy decision, right? And it really sent me on this path of thinking about other hard decisions I've had to make, and that I knew were for my highest good or the highest good of people involved. But nonetheless, it didn't make that decision any easier. And it doesn't always, making a decision that is in alignment with our highest good doesn't always feel good in the moment. And so, yeah, I just wanted to jump into that. But first, let's pause for a second. And as always, take our collective sip of coffee together, or tea, whatever your drink of choice is, and to create that moment of unity. So here we go. Oh, my coffee's cold. It's still good. Anyway. So there's a kind of decision that it doesn't feel empowering when you have to make it. It doesn't feel aligned. It doesn't feel peaceful. It doesn't even feel right in your body at first. It feels like grief, like a panic kind of, like you're betraying a version of yourself that once needed this thing, this person, or that version of life. And still somewhere deeper, you know. And you know it's the choice that needs to be made. In some situations, it's the choice that will save you. In some situations, it's going to be the choice that ends your suffering or suffering in another, whether it's an animal, a human, you know. And I wanted to talk about the kind of choices that crack you open in a way. The ones where there's no clean answer, there's no clear answer. It's not a version where everybody wins. There's no outcome where you can walk away unscathed or unbothered, untouched. And, you know, I've lived there. I've been faced with many choices of that magnitude. And sometimes I haven't made the right choice, right? But with living in truth and integrity and trying your best to live in alignment with your highest self, you know, it doesn't always feel good. And it's a space where love and pain kind of coexist. We're staying, you know, in a relationship or a situation. It feels kind of like a slow death, but leaving or ending a situation or a cycle feels like jumping off of a cliff without knowing if there's a ground beneath you to catch you. I've definitely had many experiences where I've had to walk away from people I loved. You know, we talked about this in the last episode. I touched on it. You know, my ex and the kids. I had to make a decision to continue living the old version of my life and repeating patterns, or to make new choices and choose myself and choose to live a life that feels true to me. Because, you know, something that feels true to an old version of us, as we grow and we heal, it doesn't mean that it's going to feel true to us in this version of ourselves, you know, the more healed and evolved version. And there is like, I've found, at least in my experience, there is a pull sometimes between your old life and your new life, or the old life, the life that you're living in, but the life and a pull towards the life that you're trying to go towards and live. And, you know, I've walked away from versions of myself that once kept me safe, from identities that I built just to survive. And honestly, none of those choices felt strong in the moment. They felt like a breaking, like a death to that version of myself. And there's this illusion in the healing space that choosing your highest good will feel empowering or clear and light. And sometimes it does. But sometimes choosing your highest good feels like grief ripping through your chest. And it feels like sitting in silence after you've made the decision and thinking, did I just ruin everything? Did I just make the right choice? Or did I make this choice out of fear or old patterns and habits? It feels like questioning yourself over and over again. And, sometimes when we've lived a life where we've made a lot of poor choices, it's really hard to trust ourselves, But what I've learned is that your highest good doesn't always feel good in the moment. It feels true. And the truth isn't always comfortable, as we all know. And there were times in my life where I stayed too long, relationships, environments, old patterns and habits. And not because I didn't know better, but because I didn't trust myself enough to choose differently. And I told myself stories. What if I regret it? What if this is as good as it gets? What if I'm the problem? What if I'm being ungrateful? What if I'm, choosing to look at the problems instead of the solutions in this situation? And those stories kept me stuck in situations that were quietly draining the life out of me. No matter how good it felt in a moment, in a very fleeting moment, it was draining, and you can tell when you're in a situation that is just one of those soul-sucking, empty voids that it's like the rat race, right? I envision the hamster wheel, like you're running on this hamster wheel, but you're not going anywhere, and sometimes you get a burst of energy and you're like, okay, I can do this. But then you get exhausted eventually, and it shows in the way you show up every day, in the choices that you make, and in your energy levels. That's definitely something, because your body will always tell you. Your body is constantly communicating with you what it needs, what it doesn't want anymore, what's not serving it, what is serving it, and so, and then there came the moments where I couldn't ignore it anymore, where something inside of me got louder than my fear of the unknown, and not louder in a confident way either, but louder in a desperate, aching way. Like my soul was saying, if you don't choose yourself right now, you're going to lose yourself completely. And those are the moments that change everything. And making the right choice for your highest good isn't about being fearless. It's about choosing alignment despite the fear. It's about honoring what you know, even when it costs you something. And it will cost you something. Let's be just very honest about that. You might lose people. You're going to lose comfort. And you most certainly will lose the version of your life that you thought you were building that was in your highest good. And maybe it wasn't your highest good for that time period and that version of yourself, because of soul lessons and growth. Like, I believe that probably was the choice for your highest good so that the lessons could be learned. But what do you gain in staying in that version of yourself and staying stuck? There's a lot to be gained in choosing yourself and choosing the courage over comfort, choosing love over fear. And in that space, you gain yourself, essentially. You gain freedom in whatever form or version that looks like for you in that time period. And, I've had to sit in the aftermath of those choices. The quiet, the loneliness, the second guessing, the reeling of, did I make the right choice? Did I not make the right choice? Did I just screw everything up? Did the universe place this in front of me to see if I was going to be able to hold it and to be strong and be able to hold it? I've cried over decisions I knew were right. I've missed and still miss people that I know I can't go back to, versions of myself that seemed just like less stressful, I guess, less challenging. It was more comfortable, and I've questioned my strength definitely while actively being strong. And I just didn't realize until looking back how strong I actually was and had to be in those moments. And, I've been through things that would or could definitely break other people. I've seen people go through the same things, and I've gone through some similar things, and it has broken them. And they didn't make it out of those situations. Some people have lost their lives being in certain situations that I was in. And so I say all this to say that this is the part people don't talk about enough, I don't think, and it's that you can be aligned and still be grieving. You can be doing what's best for you and still feel like you're falling apart, and that both can exist at the same time. That's the duality of life that I myself and Sharon, we talk about. And so I just wanted to say, if you're in a place right now where you're facing a hard choice, where you know what you need to do, but it just feels unbearable to make that choice, I want you to hear this, that you're not crazy for feeling torn, and you're not weak for struggling with it, and you're not wrong for choosing yourself. I want to say this again because I can't accentuate this enough, that you are not wrong for choosing yourself in situations that are detrimental to your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Even if it hurts, and especially if it hurts, because there's something to be learned from the pain. And sometimes the pain isn't a sign that you're making a wrong decision. Sometimes it's a sign that you're letting go of something that mattered, but it no longer aligns with who you're becoming. I don't believe that we're here to live easy lives all the time. I mean, sure, sometimes, life's going to be easy and it's going to be great. And sometimes it's going to be really hard. Even if you are being the best version of yourself, life will not ever be without its challenges and its heartbreaks and its trials and tribulations. I believe we're here to live lives that are true to our soul and true to our nature as beings of divine love and light. And truth and alignment will ask things of you. It will ask you to outgrow people, to release attachments, to walk away from what once felt like home. And every time you say yes to that, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing your soul growth. You're choosing your evolution. And it can really be a beautiful thing. And maybe not in the moment, but when you look back, because hindsight's 20/20, right? You can look back and be damn proud of yourself that you made it through and that you did the hard thing because you knew that there was more for you, that there was a better life and a better version of yourself waiting for you after you make those hard choices. So if you're standing at the edge right now, and if your heart is racing and your mind is spinning and you feel like you might break, and maybe you will break for a minute, but not in the way you think. You're not going to break into nothing. You're going to break open into something that's more honest and more aligned and more you, more authentically you. The version of you that you came here to be and to live in your most authentic, loving, true self. And one day you're going to look back at that version of yourself, the one who made the hard choice. And you're going to realize that wasn't the moment you lost everything. That was the moment that you finally chose yourself. And that you chose to live a life more true to you and to take the hard steps, because it's not easy. Walking away from a toxic relationship, but you love them, it's not easy. Walking away from, say, a pet, and choosing to end their suffering at the expense of your own. It doesn't feel good. It's heartbreaking. But there are also going to be choices that you make that feel really good to you. Right? Like, boil it down to, say, your diet. Like, you want the cheeseburger and French fries. But in that moment, you pause and you're like, is this a high vibrational choice? Is this something that is nourishing my body rather than depleting it? So you choose the salad, right? Or you choose the wrap, or you choose a smoothie and choose to fast for the day. And it might not feel like super great in the moment because you really wanted the cheeseburger and fries, right? But in the long term, and you keep making those choices, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I feel really good today. My energy's up. I feel good. I don't feel sluggish after, eating that meal. And that's how we build trust with ourselves, is by making one choice in alignment in our highest good at a time. And it's hard, you guys. It is hard. And, somewhere in this version of me, I really had thought, I'm like, whew, all right, the hard times were over. But I realized I was setting myself up for disappointment, because the hard times aren't ever over. It's just how we handle them and how we heal through them and the choices we make through those hard times. And that's what I refer to, there's the game changers of the world, right? And we're the ones that are mindful of each choice that we make. And sometimes we slip, absolutely. Sometimes we make choices that aren't in alignment with our highest good. But what matters is what we do after we recognize it. Are we going to turn it around? Are we going to make a different choice? And that's what keeps us out of that vicious cycle and that loop of making choices that are not in our highest good. And when I had that realization, this was just a few days ago, because I, in the last couple of days being faced with this choice to let my cat go. I mean, I haven't done it yet. I'm still tussling with it, but I'm thinking that's where this is going to go. I was thinking about how I would have handled this a few years ago, probably prior to moving to New York. And what hit me was, even just getting that phone call and talking to the vet about this, it would have sent me into a spiral, and I would have avoided the conversation altogether, honestly. And I think I would have been thinking of myself first and thinking, I can't handle another loss like this. Which, I mean, I did think that, but not in the way of, I'm going to continue to make her, have her continue living like this. It was, okay, I don't feel like I can handle another big loss like this. And how am I going to live with myself? But what followed was, what's in her highest good? Because I'm her voice and I am her caretaker, right? And it was just a really big growth moment for me to see how I'm able to step outside of my own selfish existence now and really think about what's best for others involved as well. Because we don't want to make choices that impede or stomp all over other people's boundaries and things like that. I mean, sometimes, like say a toxic relationship, of course they're going to tell you, no, this is meant to be, we're just going through a rough time, but the rough time has lasted the entire relationship, right? So their boundary is, no, I'm not leaving and you're not going to leave me. But other people's boundaries end where ours begin. And so long as we're making choices from a state of love and not fear, and, not being selfish in those choices, sometimes other people are going to be hurt by our choices. But again, I say, at the end of the day, you are the only one who has to sit in your own mind and with your own thoughts and be able to live with yourself. And that's where looking at all sides of the spectrum, I guess, would come into play. We have to look at other people's, how are we affecting other people? Yes, but so long as we're not making choices for ourselves with malicious intent to others, and it's not hurting them in a way that is, malicious or intending to hurt them, and we're just coming from a place of love for everybody and definitely love for ourselves, I don't think we can go wrong, you know? And so the moment that we finally choose ourselves, especially if you're someone who's lived a life choosing everybody else but yourself and essentially being a martyr, and no shame in that, like, to anybody. I've definitely lived as a martyr. I'm a Pisces. We are the martyrs of the zodiac sign, you know? I think it all ends up being for the highest good of all, because all of our journeys are connected and we all come into each other's lives for a season, reason, or a lifetime, right? Not everyone's meant to stay. Not every person, animal, you know, any being is meant to be in your life and in your journey, on your journey forever. But they do come to teach us something. And so long as we actively work on mindfulness and learning the lessons, I really don't think we can go wrong. And we're always going to end up exactly where we're meant to be at the exact moment, at the exact right time. Even if we take a detour, you know. And something else I've learned is that the detours, I mean, that's part of the adventure of life, right? We can't know everything. We can't be able to predict everything, as great as that would be. We just got to roll with it and roll with the punches and be incredibly grateful for the good moments and be present in those moments and cherish them. But don't let them be clouded by all of the challenges and the hard stuff that we have to go through. And definitely, you know, make sure we take a moment to think about ourselves and our reflection, and like reflect on how far we've come and how we would have handled a situation in the past as opposed to how we handle it now. And that's where our power really comes from, and where the trust in ourselves really comes from. And it can be such a beautiful thing. We just really have to be mindful and make the choices that might not always feel good in the moment, but that we know are for our highest good after we come out of it. So I just want to wrap this up by saying that if you take anything from this episode, please let it be this. The hardest choices you'll ever make will ask you to walk away from what you feel in order to honor what you know. And that's not weakness, that is self-leadership. Because your highest self isn't built in comfort. It's built in those moments where everything in you wants to stay the same, but something deeper calls you forward anyway. You're allowed to grieve what you release. You're allowed to miss what you outgrow. And you're allowed to feel like it's breaking you, and you're allowed to fall to your knees. But please don't confuse the pain with misalignment, because sometimes pain is the initiation, and sometimes it's the price of becoming. So choose yourself, even when your voice shakes, when your heart is breaking, even when you don't have the proof that it will work out. Because every time that you do, you're building a life rooted in truth instead of fear. In that kind of life, you guys, it might cost you everything that isn't real, but it will give you everything that is. And sometimes it takes a while, yes, but you've got to hold strong in your truth. And if no one has told you this yet, you can survive this decision. You can survive the grief, and you can survive the becoming. And on the other side of it is a version of you that no longer abandons yourself to keep anything else. That's your power. That's your work. And that, my friends, is what alchemy is. Turning life's greatest pains and heartaches into the most beautiful works of art. And I believe in you so much. And as always, I want you to know that I love you. I love you immensely. I love you unconditionally. And I value your place in this world. So with that, I'm going to end this. And I hope you all be well and have a really good day.